Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Barcast TV and to another episode of Barcast Daily. It is June 21st, 2023. We have another high-level replay, so let's get into the game and introduce our players. Spawning on the south side of Cirolata, playing as a blue pieces, it's Lopatka. And his opponent spawning on the top side of the map, playing as the red pieces, it's Zlo. So both players here, really high level. Pretty sure they're both competing in A or B group of the Bar League, so I don't believe this match was actually taken from those games. But both these players were practicing on Cirolata, and I couldn't help myself downloading the game and casting it for you guys. So here we are. Let's go ahead and look at these opening build orders. Looks like Lopatka is opening up for a bot lab first after 3 mexes, 2 wind turbines. And his opponent, Zlo, is going for a vehicle plant. So, a little bit of a deviation here from both players. Get to see the, what are those? ARM vehicles versus Cortex bots. So, pretty standard classic matchup here. Lopatka immediately going into a wind turbine here. And is going to be adding on, another one there. So, really trying to balance out that energy eco on Cirolata. We have a pretty decent wind speed here, with a relatively low risk compared to some of these other wind maps. So, I have to say, I've been practicing on some wind maps as of yet, or lately, and really been enjoying, how well you can play bots on these maps. I think you can kind of forget how useful bots are, or how wind kind of affects this bots versus vehicle matchup, rather. So, it's just really interesting to see these, different economies you can develop in the game and how they play out in different maps and matchups. So really been enjoying learning that and practicing my bots. Kind of fell out of favor there with myself for a bit. I was just really struggling with these grunt micro versus armed vehicles and blitzes, kind of getting frustrated and just learning to deal fight fire with fire, and started rolling a lot of armed vehicles myself. But that's neither here nor there. We're here to analyze the game of Bar and talk about these two amazing players. If y'all enjoy watching 1v1 matches and want to see the channel grow, help me out. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. I've been really trying to focus on bringing high-level players onto the channel. So we've had, Ragna, Andy, Zlo. I got a few more people lined up, some surprises coming for y'all. So if that's something you're interested in seeing more of, hit the subscribe button and you'll be the first to know. So thank you for that, and for all of you who have been leaving me comments, really appreciate that. So let's go ahead and talk about this game here. So Lopatka is opening up for 2 construction bots expanding on either side of the map, and we noticed there was a little bit of a deviation between the spawning locations for either player. Low choosing to spawn on this high ground plateau here, which I would argue is maybe slightly better. This area is a little more defensible than what we see Lopatka choosing to do in this spawning this low ground. I suppose the one advantage is it's more central to the map, and you have about the same number of mexes to expand to in either direction. So pretty minimal advantage, I would say. See Lopatka still hanging out in the main base with his commander, and made an early grave robber here to kind of reclaim some of these trees. And is that going to get taken out by this this scout here? And I don't think Zlo is kind of paying attention there, so could have picked off that a high value unit. These are not cheap. Looks like he actually turns around and spots that. I'm pretty sure this grave robber could get a reclaim off on this rover, but that should be going down. We see 2 of these blitzes here, kind of trying to find this expanding construction bot here. Are they going to be able to do it? 2 of these grunts are not enough to take on 2 blitzes, so I'm pretty sure this is going to go down. That's a great catch, catching one of your opponent's expanding construction vehicles, or construction bots, rather. Really big catch, and we see 3 of these scouts moving in to take out this little high ground expansion here. I think 1 grunt can actually take on all these scouts, so this is a nice little defense here from our Czech player. Shout out Lopatka. You've definitely handed me some great losses to review. I really appreciate that. Same for Zlo. I think I had the chance to play him a couple weeks ago, so thanks guys for showing me how to play this game. Really appreciate that. Looks like this expansion is going to get up no problem, and we have a really nice radar positioning kind of queued up here. So one thing to note from these high-level players is just how effective they are at placing radars, how sparsely they can make LLTs. I mean, look how greedy this man is opening here. Just no LLTs, no radar, just straight naked expanding with these construction vehicles. I think he actually walked this past this construction vehicle just to kind of get to this side of the map a little quicker. And we can see, let's take a look at these player views perhaps and see where these players are at. So there's Low staying in the main base with his commander. Really light on, you're gonna eat my words there. Not too light on units. He's got a decent group of blitzes here in the center of the map, kind of threatening, posturing his opponent. That's gonna let him naked expand. I mean, he's got a lot of build power here. Soon to be in the main base. What is that? 5 expanding engineers. So really taking advantage of this greed here. Take a look at his opponent, Lapaka. Just finished his little radar, capped this mech here. He's got a lot of build power in the main base. Already has 3 construction turrets up, so it's going to let him field a lot of grunts very quickly. Wonder if does he have the eco to kind of support this. I see 2 expanding construction bots on either side. So a little less build power dedicated to construction bots, but we see Lapaka, already moving towards the center of the board with his commander. So there's a +5 mechs here in the dead center of the map, and these are 2.2, so there's a lot of mass here in the center. Of course, the strategic position of controlling this part of the board lets you kind of launch attacks to defend against attacks and launch attacks to anywhere on the board, kind of wherever you feel at whim. So we see Lapaka's gone ahead and made this forward radar, so he's well aware of these unit positionings of Zlo. And he's kind of going to be posturing with this huge army of 29 grunts here, so could definitely take on this army if microed properly. I mean, grunts outrange the blitzes as it is, so having that 2-to-1 is a pretty good ratio when you're trying to fight your opponent's units, I have to say. I would take that army any day. We see these construction vehicles continuing to cap mexes and not adding on radars or LLTs, so this is really greedy play here. Finally, we see 1 LLT coming up. I think this one in tow is going to be adding on 3 radars. But that's a little bit of a misclick. Not the end of the world. And we see some Janus and medium tanks are kind of finding their way out into the map. And, you know, these medium tanks are not too bad against the grunts. They do a little bit of splash damage. So Lapaka doing a good job minimizing that by kind of stretching his army out into a line here, kind of reducing that splash damage. But see, where is this game at? It's slowed down just a little bit. Both players are playing really greedy, I suppose. Lapaka perfectly content to kind of secure the center of the board. He's got this mechs capped and is down on metal produced. I think that's just because we saw how greedy Zlo was in this early opening game. So Lapaka actually kind of has to make up for that deficit by controlling this part of the map. And I see the blue player has some stouts of his own, so has moved on to 2 factory production here. He's got a lot of build power in the main base, 4 construction turrets, so should let him field an army very quickly. We see, meanwhile, in Zlo's main base, no construction turrets just yet. He's got 4 construction vehicles and his commander still sitting in the main base, perfectly content to, I guess, play daycare? I heard a funny phrase about the commander who stays in the main base. Daddy daycare or something like that. I don't know what it was, but anyways. See, excuse me, both players kind of posturing. A lot of Janus shots going off, so not quite taking out that stout there. But is he going to lose these 2 Janus? I mean, these are not cheap units. See another 2 missiles going off, and those somehow missed. I didn't know you could dodge Janus shots like that. Perhaps there's some maximum range on those. We see Zlo's army is 17 blitzes, 4 Janus, 5 medium tanks. And Lapaka already has a couple of these mobile light artilleries kind of, complementing this forest of LLTs. I haven't really seen this unit composition before, just parking these long-range artillery behind your LLT forest to kind of, I guess like shoo your enemy away. See 1 blitz kind of sneaking through, picking off one of those, mechs is going to turn around, find that resbot. And these 2 armies are kind of posturing back and forth. I'm wondering if Zlo is kind of looking to make an attack here. He's got a lot of Janus in his army, 5 Janus, so that is a lot of splash damage you can kind of push out with these units. Looks like 3 of them might end up going down. Not quite yet. You see this next Janus? Yeah, okay, so if you were moving away from that Janus shot, there's like a chance to miss, perhaps, or best way to dodge those shots is to kind of be moving away from the Janus as it fires. And I don't really think Lapaka's going to be able to break this position anytime soon. There is a huge group of grunts here, 33 grunts kind of rotating right. And this group of medium tanks and Wolverines are just going to hold down the fort here with the commander, lock up the center part of the board. We can take a look at these statistics here. Zlo still sitting up about 2k mass, so not the biggest advantage coming from controlling the center of the board yet from Lapaka, even though he's got this like +5 mechs in the center. You see Lapaka is trying to make an attack here on the right side, but Zlo is already in position, and this is not what you want to attack into. Is he going to go for it? Yeah, just not really paying attention. I think he must be microing somewhere else on the board. We see there's another little tank battle going on over here on the right side, and all these grunts just go down for free pretty much. I mean, that was a big donation. Looks like Lapaka kind of pushed a little bit off of the center part of the board, but not the biggest of deals. We see a couple of resbots kind of coming up, gonna be resing these Janus and Stouts here, or excuse me, reclaiming rather. Some of these units in the middle, these medium tanks kind of moving to the right side as well, trying to finish the job the grunts started. They're gonna clear out these LLTs and construction vehicle, but Zlo's moving the bulk of his main army, you know, to kind of defend against this. We see a lot of blitzes stepping up, looking to kind of take out these medium tanks as they roll forward. And you can keep up with these tanks and kind of even move past them to really prevent the damage that can get done. So this is a nice catch here from Zlo, making short work of all these medium tanks. And see another little push out here from Lapaka in the center, this time moving to the left. His opponent moves right, well he's moving left here. That is a lot of reclaim here for Zlo. Let's take a look at this. He's already got the reclaim orders issued. That is 3,000 mass sitting right there. And that's going to feed him into this aircraft plant. So Zlo finally added on some construction turrets. He's got a lot of build power in the main base and has moved into aircraft. So we'll see how he happens to leverage that tech advantage here. I don't think Lapaka understood just quite how greedy this man was playing. These tanks are rolling into undefended mexes. No radars, no LLTs to speak of. Zlo continuing to add on LLTs and beamers on this left side of the board. We see Lapaka's main base still is sitting on 2 factory production, streaming units into the center of the board here. It's feeling another group of tanks here, and we see the first bomber is out for Zlo here. So let's take a look and see how Lapaka kind of reacts to this. I'm sure he got the alert. Sees these bombers going off, so we'll see how fast he's able to kind of put up some static defense or put up some anti-air. Looks like he's focusing on kind of microing this battle here in the mid, finally coming back to the main base. Really assisting these AA going up in his main base, but meanwhile, bombers are making short work of all these mexes on the right side of the board, so Zlo doing a good job targeting these mexes here. Do they just kind of default target those? I mean, I'm not sure if he's actually issuing these commands manually or whatnot, but neglecting those LLTs and going for the eco here. We see more bombers streaming out and scouts trying to do what they can here. We see these tanks, these tanks on the left side finally going to get dealt with. Zlo has plenty of construction vehicles to kind of reclaim that territory, take back those mexes that were destroyed. And there's a lot of action. We have a battle going on here in the middle. Lapaka kind of stepping forward, just trying to push his opponent off this position here. We see a couple of Janus still taking pot shots at these tanks as they step forward, and a lot of bombers still kind of flying across the map, completely neglecting this main base and just going for the extremities here, just getting as many mexes as they can. That's 6 mexes down. 1, 2, at least 8 there. Have a couple more going down on this left side of the board, so this is really fantastic damage for our red player here. You see Lapaka's kind of trying to make a push forward here. He's kind of met with a couple of these Janus here and Zlo's own medium tank, so forcing him to step back. We see these LLTs or twin guard towers doing what they can against these bombers here, but they're still getting damage. We see more mexes going down. So many bombers doing what they can. This is a lot of damage here. Take a look at these statistics here. Relatively even here, 14 minutes into the game. Lopaka is finally moving out of the middle with his commander, going back towards this right side, just trying to reclaim this area as best he can. Add on LOTs, static defense, anti-air turrets. And what is he doing with his main army? It looks like Zlo's kind of preparing for an attack here. He's setting up an Overwatch heavy laser tower to kind of outrange this static defense here from our blue player. So that should shoo Lopaka off of that position over time. See, he's moving his medium tanks back into the center here, trying to find some damage. These bombers are still getting damage done. Oh my gosh. Finally flying over the middle there. Not the best choice. End up going down. We see one more bomber here in the back line. Still finding damage. I think he's just attack bombing that one location. More bombers still streaming out onto the map. Let's see, what does this build queue look like? So repeat on. Quite the interesting build queue from our Russian player. And yeah, we can see how effective this Overwatch, this Warden turret, is heavy laser tower is at clearing out these static defense. It's gonna let these bombers come in and continue to kind of take out these metal extractors. I mean, one anti-air turret is not enough. I got a couple different battles happening at once here. We see the red player stepping forward finally into the middle of the map, pressing forward with his tanks. Lopaka is moving forward on the left side, clearing out a lot of these static defenses and mexes, but I want to say the more interesting pushes here on the left, or Zlo's army. I don't think he can really move past this terrain here. This body of water is traversable, I suppose, by these tanks. Yeah, so they can stream in single file through this little choke point here. That is not where you want to be against Janus, though. His units are really clumped up here. Good thing his opponent doesn't have any splash damage. I saw one bombing run gets off here in the main base, taking out some wind turbines. Looks like Zlo is going to retreat here with this army, but meanwhile, Lopaka on the north side of the map getting damage done with these tanks. He's got a lot of medium tanks moving towards the main base of Zlo, so 16 tanks. How is Zlo going to stop this? I mean, he doesn't really have a big army in the way here. He's got a couple Janus and tanks. Let's take a look and see like how effective this splash damage is. Meanwhile, in the center part of the board, Zlo's army pretty much getting cleaned up. He's got a couple Janus left. I think both players are really trying to focus on this micro battle here. We see bombers doing what they can, trying to soften this army up, and I mean, that is a lot of medium tanks here. How are you going to deal with this, Slow? See, one Janus shot goes off, takes out a tank. And these tanks are kind of getting cleared out. We see two beamer turrets can really kind of chew through this army. Is Zlo going to use a D-gun here to kind of take out the rest of these tanks? Not quite. Issuing a huge reclaim order with all this build power here. So finally that push gets dealt with. I'll have to take a breather here and see where this game has slowed down to. Excuse me. So where are we? See another Overwatch turret. It's kind of being pushed forward here, taking out that anti-air and the rest of that static defense. These two construction vehicles moving back, trying to take this little plateau. The commander is doing what it can to expand, and we have more bombers from Zlo making their way down the right side of the map, perhaps undetected from the blue player. Looks like he actually should notice this is happening. I'm assuming Zlo is going to be making a bombing run at this main base here, going for the construction turrets and wind turbines, but there is a lot of anti-air turrets here, so these bombers are doing what they can. That is a pretty cool little tactic there from Zlo. Taking out these freshly built mexes here. Meanwhile, in the center part of the board, Lopaka still has this kind of locked down. So he's got a couple res bots here doing what they can to reclaim this Rex in the middle. Zlo retaking this left side, adding on construction turrets, perhaps for some kind of tech switch, or is going to be taking this geothermal plant there. And we noticed that he's got two geothermal plants kind of going up, so really focusing on this stable kind of production here. And it still has a lot of mass sitting in front of his main base. I mean, how much is that? Almost 2,000 mass. Meanwhile, Zlo chose to go for that bombing run against Lopaka here, so gets a couple wind turbines, not the most damage. We see one stout here doing what it can to kind of clear out these construction turrets, slowly taking out these vehicles. You see more bombers making their way through. There's so much going on this game. Zlo doing a really good job of using these bombers to kind of get damage, issuing manual attack orders. That's really interesting to see. Meanwhile, Lepaka getting sick of this Overwatch creep. He's trying to clear out this static defense here, but these turrets do a lot of damage we see against these medium tanks here. So what is that? 3-shotting these medium tanks, so that's a lot of damage. You see, neither player really has a big standing army here, so it's like so many scrappy little fights all over the board. We see battles on the left side, troops moving in the middle, static defense going down on the right. So these tanks are yet to be dealt with here. Do you see one of these Overwatch turrets going down after having a lot of kills? Didn't quite catch how many kills that had. See more of these bombers kind of breaching through the gap here. Really doing what they can to kind of take out some of these mexes. And just, yeah, more bombers coming out continuously here. And actually we see air transports being queued up for a little bit of a drop, perhaps. So we'll have to keep an eye on that, see what evolves from that situation. More tanks punching through on the left side, taking out static defense and kind of getting towards these construction turrets here. And there's a lot of vulnerable build power and energy there, so perhaps Lepaka will kind of find that damage there. I'm just trying to figure out like who has the advantage right now. We see Zlo's up about 10k mass so far. There's a huge reclaim field here on the right side, kind of defended by a red player. And yeah, where did all those drop trips go? So we see one of these, two. Not sure what Zlo's intentions are with these units here. We see even more on this right side, so kind of getting dealt with by these missile trucks. Actually, I think these are designed to be like anti-air units in and of themselves. We see more air transports. Here we go. Look at these really long drop commands issued here for the rotating around the right side of this map and kind of dropping on this main plateau of our blue player. Really slow finding damage wherever he can, but Lepaka's moving forward here with a pretty sizable army, and once again, don't really see many units between Zlo's main base and this army here from Lepaka, so he could end up getting a lot of damage here. Good thing, I mean, look how exposed this geothermal plant is. Is Lepaka gonna end up finding it? I think he just might. Those go down pretty quickly. They don't have the most health, but I do know they kind of self-destruct and are volatile, so none of those tanks end up going down. We see Lepaka's commander had a cloak, to get away from these Janus here, so 3 Janus almost taking out Lepaka's commander here. Sorry I end up missing that. We see these dropships are finally doing their thing. One blitz made its way onto this high ground. We see one more tank being dropped. Look at that repair, so strong. Can't out DPS a blitz here. We see some random tank right next to this commander here, and Lepaka is low on E perhaps? No, so he can move around with this commander at will, and more of these skyhooks are kind of being ferried across the map. We can see just how much APM our Russian player has to kind of put units around the map. Looks like this army finally got dealt with here in the middle of the board, and yeah, I want to say I'd give the advantage to Zlo. I mean, he has about his half of the map, perhaps, even though Lepaka has the center. You see one of these medium tanks being reclaimed by this construction turret, so can't even get damage done there. We see a lot of Janus here on this high ground, so 4 Janus, 2 medium tanks are going to do what they can against these armies here that kind of come up to deal with this. That huge reclaim field is pretty much gone thanks to this construction vehicle, so Zlo doing a really good job reclaiming all this mass. Lepaka's kind of donating on his side of the map. These grave robbers are going to get cleaned up here in the center, and we see our red player is kind of moving forward with a lot of forces here. So take a look at these armies here. What is that? 5 Janus on the left side, another 3 on the right, and they're going to be moving forward for another attack here. So Zlo pressing into the center here. A lot of Janus shots going off. These are so effective against these slow-moving tanks en masse. See another battle kind of starting kind of starting here. Two more of these construction vehicles making their way from the front line to try and retake this plateau here, but I don't think Zlo is going to give him a chance. He's got 3 Janus coming down to deal with this expansion here. Meanwhile, in the center of the board, this army is kind of thinning out for Lepaka. He's got to defend these LLTs, kind of stay around that, abuse the range of these missile trucks here to his advantage. Meanwhile, those 2 construction vehicles get taken out by these Janus here. And this commander is sitting at about 50% health, so really has to be careful. It can't take too big of engagements. I mean, we're 24 minutes into the game, and 2 ticks and a rover are finding damage, clearing out undefended mexes here. So more drops coming on the left side of the map. So Zlo just playing like an absolute madman here, dropping on the map, harassing with rovers, fielding huge armies, clearing out expansions for the Janus. I mean, see a lot of missile trucks here from Lepakas. I'm not sure how good these are against the Janus. I mean, I know they outrange them, but they just do so little damage here. See 2 Janus end up going down for 1 stout. And here we go. I mean, look at this huge T1 army. So much build power here in the main base. These that is a huge army. Excuse me. Oh, I think it's this Resbot gang that finally kind of came through here. We see a lot of Resbots from our red players able to kind of I guess like Night King this this army over here that Lepaka kind of donated or threw away just a few moments ago. And I think this game is kind of approaching an end. We see Zlo pressing forward on this left side. He's got a huge army here in the mid. I'm not sure why he's kind of retreating or pulling back. He could definitely kind of move forward and press into his opponent. Oh, excuse me, Lepaka's on T2 actually. Excuse me, so he reclaimed his bot lab here, has been making these Tiger tanks, and should have some T2 mexes going up. Yeah, so that's why our red player was kind of retreating there for a second. We see just how effective these T2 tanks are against their T1 counterparts. Kind of holding him in the game here for now. Take a look at the statistics. Zlo is sitting up about, what is that, 12k mass. Definitely enough for a T2 factory. And look at all this build power. That is insane. I'm not sure how these units are even pathing out of here. Look at this ridiculous build queue. 16 tanks, 7 Janus, 5 construction vehicles, 5 blitzes, and 8 rovers. Oof. Excuse me. See a couple of T2 tanks on the left side trying to do what they can to clear out this little run by here from Zlo, who has a couple tanks in the backline, so still continuing to drop tanks like everywhere on the board here. This is just crazy multitasking. Zlo is like taking over Lepaka's plateau here on the right side. Really has got a lot of units over here. Tanks rolling forward on the left from Lepaka, clearing out what he can. These T2 tanks are kind of being killed by these Overwatch turrets. A lot of beamers and static defense here, yeah, are going to make short work of these tanks, really. I mean, that was a lot of damage. We see a couple of these T2 tanks going down here in the middle to the T1 army of Zlo. And there is just so much action. We see 4 more tanks moving over here on the left side. 2 tanks on the left side. Excuse me, 2 T2 tanks, but Zlo is pushing forward in the mid here, finally rolling over the position from his opponent. And I think this is getting close to the end here. I mean, you see just a couple of these like dropped tanks somehow finding their way into the back line here. Lepaka has to commit T2 tanks to kind of clear out these run-bys. And we see a huge T1 army approaching Lepaka's main base. We see these T2 tanks doing what they can against this T1 army, but I don't think you're going to be able to stop this like onslaught here. We see a lot of tanks rolling into the main base of Lepaka. I think this is it, guys. How are you going to defend your economy against this? And yeah, I think the board tells the story of this game here. So yeah, just a matter of time, I suppose, before Lepaka taps out. I mean, he's losing his main base here. Is resigned to the right side of the map. Is he going to walk his commander into glory here? go down with a fight. And yeah, Lapaka calls GG. So what a game from Zlo. Wow, just crazy multitasking. Lapaka actually played very well too. I think that one, like he had the middle of the board, and the first time he kind of stepped out to launch the counterattack, he lost a lot of grunts here in the center. So I mean, it's kind of like a dice roll, I suppose, not attacking the left side, which we saw was really undefended. And perhaps that's something to consider. I mean, if your opponent's main base is here and you're kind of attacking close to it, well, like his army is around in this general area. So I don't want to criticize him too hard. That was a great game, guys. And thanks for watching. See you in the next replay.